So Nick Saban retires. It's done. 17 years in Tuscaloosa. It's over. 6 national championships with Alabama. 1 with LSU in 2003. This guy has had crazy, unbelievable success that no one else has attained in college football, let alone in most of American sports, no matter what level it is. He's gone. And the old saying is you don't want to be the man who has to replace the man. Why? Because the expectations are way too flippin' high. Today, I'm going to give you the names that are being floated around to replace not just the man, the unbelievably world-class coaching, whether you love him or hate him, championship winning coach. And I'm going to get to their names here in just a second. Hey, I'm Brian. I'm glad you're here with Clemson Football Live. You're like, this is not Clemson football. Yeah, I know, but it's college football, y'all. If you like what you're hearing, I hope, if you like what I do, I hope you'll subscribe. It's free and it's easy. I'm going to dive right into this. Now, if you're a Clemson fan, you were told in 2018 when Dabo Swinney held up his second national championship in 3 years that he's our coach in waiting. As soon as Saban calls it quits, we're going after Dabo Swinney. Now, we've heard about that as Clemson fans for a while now. Dabo Swinney is the obvious name to be floated around for a couple of reasons. Out of the names that are being floated around that I'm going to name, and even some that I might even miss, he's the only one who's won 2 national championships. Now, Kirby Smart, I know that name's been thrown out there. Kirby Smart's not leaving his alma mater to go to Alabama. They would have to pay him some, like, gobs of money to get him out of Georgia. I don't believe he'll. That's why I'm not even really bringing him up. The only reason I brought him up is to say that he and Dabo Swinney are the only other 2 coaches to have 2 national championships. So, that are currently coaching, all right? But Dabo Swinney is a name that's floated around because not only did he win those 2 national championships in 16 and 18, he went to Alabama. He's from Alabama. Graduated Alabama. Played for Alabama. He was on the 92 championship team. So, that name has been floated around, but truthfully, he's not the first name on the list. The first name on the list, according to, if you really want to make your head hurt, go to Google, type in Nick Saban replacement. Nick Saban replacement, and I want you to see the names that are being floated around. Some make sense, some are okay, and then some are just like, really? So let's talk about the other names. So Dabo Swinney, I've mentioned that. The other name that's being floated around is Dan Lanning at Oregon. Now, Dan Lanning had a 9-3 season in his first season at Oregon. All right. And this season, they were this close to the college football playoff. They played very good football. I think they had 2 losses all season to the same team who just ended up in the national championship. They ended up losing, but that's a big deal. Dan Lanning has SEC ties. He was the defensive coordinator for Georgia from 19 to 2021. He can coach football. He understands the grit of the SEC, and he is operating within the new world order of college football. The transfer portal, bringing in who he needs to bring in. He's just, that's just how he is, you know. And that the other thing to think about is that the guy understands the importance of a job like this. Now, Oregon pales in comparison to Alabama. But Oregon, when he took over the job, it was his goal to get the place back to where it should be, because they do play good football in Eugene. And I think that the guy's done an amazing job. I mean, you would have to go back to Chip Kelly, you know. That era to just kind of get back to better Oregon football. So he can coach. So Dan Lanning is the front runner in a lot of people's opinion. I'm not saying that that's a fact, but a lot of people are talking about him. Now, we can't forget about our old buddy Lane Kiffin. Lane coached at a lot of places. A lot of people still forget. Lane Kiffin was the head coach for the Raiders in the NFL when he was like 31. Now, he ended up getting fired from that job. He ends up going to the University of Tennessee. He spent, one season there. Tennessee fans absolutely hate him. Then he goes to Southern Cal, takes over at Southern Cal. Doesn't turn out the way he wants it there. He ends up in the Nick Saban rehab coaching rehab facility. Did very well there. Goes to FAU. Now he's at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is not an easy place to coach. He's done very solid there. He's a brilliant offensive mind. He plays the game. I don't see him being a fit for that job on the defensive side of the ball. The problem with offensive minds like Lane Kiffin, even going all the way to guys like Jamie Chadwell at Liberty, these guys who can coach offense very, very well, they are that good, but a lot of times their defensive side of the football is just absolutely neglected. And we see that with Lincoln Riley at Southern Cal. Brilliant offensive mind, terrible defensive scheme. So that would be the shot against him. Another name that has come up is Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell at Florida State. He got his team to 13-0. He did well at Memphis. And he had to take over a bad situation at Florida State. The mess that was going on that really started with Jimbo Fisher. Then they went and they hired Willie Taggart. It got absolutely terrible in Tallahassee. I was at one of those games when Florida State came to Clemson, and it just looked like, hot trash set on fire. But he took over a bad situation. And the thing about him is he's a younger guy too. I mean, he's early 40s. So you have some time with him if they did make a move on him. Personally, I don't see them making a move on Mike Norvell, but his name has been thrown into the mix. Now let's talk about another name that has been thrown around already. Steve Sarkisian just had his team in the college football playoff. Texas is not an easy place. Texas is not an easy place to coach. Texas is the place. To me, Texas is what Alabama would have been had Saban never taken over. Does that kind of make sense? They're a team that has a lot of winning, and they're a football school, and their fans put a lot into the program. But they just can't get over the hump. And I think that that's what Alabama would have been if Saban didn't show up. If Saban would have went to Texas, and a lot of people says that could have happened, Don't be shocked if the roles would have been reversed. So Steve Sarkisian is playing that whole, he's had to play that game. And let me tell you, Texas, again, is a very tough place to coach. And he's done it. You saw what he did with his team this year. He got them to the college football playoff. I said all season long, stop telling me how good you are and that you're back and blah, blah, blah. Just do it. And well, he got them to the college football playoff. That's a big deal. So Steve Sarkisian's name is being floated around. And once again, I come back to the defense looked solid at times. They had some really good defensive moments. But again, he's an offensive guy. You just always wonder about what's he going to do with that defensive scheme? Because you have to be championship level on both sides. Defense wins championships. Yes, I know. I agree with you. I'm sorry. When you get to the championship level, everything wins championships. You can have a great offense, great defense, and you trot out there Pee Wee Herman as your kicker, and he misses a kick, you lose the game. So let's talk about another name that's being floated around. This one I do not see. I don't see it whatsoever. I'm just being honest with you. James Franklin from Penn State. I do not see James Franklin from Penn State getting this job. I mean, I've seen that bouncing around. But I just don't buy it, folks. James Franklin can't beat the two teams in front of him. That keeps him out of the Big Ten. James Franklin is not a bad football coach, but I just don't see him going to Alabama and doing a good job. And I don't see him being a legitimate why he would be a legitimate, even why he would be a consideration for this job. It just doesn't make sense to me. He does have SEC experience, but that's at Vanderbilt eons ago. And yes, he did well at Vanderbilt. And look, Penn State is not a bad football team, but folks, I just don't see James Franklin being the guy for this job. I got a bunch of people in here saying hello to me, hello to you. I got Parker Henderson in here, my old buddy. It's good to see you, pal. Got DP in here. Got Grafnar. Grafnar is a member. It's good to see you, my old pal. Thank you so much for being in here. Thank you for supporting the channel. Also, if you want to support on a monthly basis, folks, there is a button below the video. Unless you're on an Apple product, you probably won't see it. There's some hilarious comments in here. So let's talk about this. How can you imagine the athletic departments right now for these schools of the coaches that I just named who are legitimately being considered for the Alabama job? Can you imagine? Because you have to think that this goes beyond Alabama. This now is tapping into schools across the country who could be the replacement. And I'm telling you, there are people right now, if they love their coach and they believe that their coach has upside. I believe Dan Lanning has upside at Oregon. Like, unless he just wants to come back to the East Coast, he has upside at Oregon, folks. And they have the money to pour into him. Let me rephrase that. Nike has the money to pour into him. Dan Lanning does not have to take this job. Am I saying that Dan Lanning would turn down Alabama? I can't say that I would want to take the job. As one of you said here, Dale said whoever takes it will have absolutely zero slack. You're right. Whoever comes into this job will have no slack, and they will have expectation like you would not believe. And the only man who's been able to handle that expectation has been Nick Saban. That's it. Parker Anderson said Urban Meyer. That's hilarious. Urban Meyer. Hey, Urban Meyer can, when he keeps himself focused on football, he's one of the best. He really is. Some great comments in here. Great comments in here. Kalen DeBoer, the guy from Washington. His name is being floated around as well. But I'll just tell you this straight up. I don't see Kalen DeBoer coaching at Alabama. I think the legitimate name that's on the list is Dan Lanning. I really believe that that's the guy for it. I really think that let me rephrase that. How I said that's very confusing. I believe the legitimate candidate is Dan Lanning. Once again, if Alabama called me up and said, "Hey, we're Alabama," and I say, "Yeah, you've got Alabama, you've got the history, and it's relevant. You were just in the playoff, and blah 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 blah." But I have to replace who? Oh, I have to replace the no, thank you. No, thank you. But I believe Dan Lanning is the number one target for Alabama. I'm just going to leave it that way. I just pretty much think that's it. Let me see. Send Bobby Durkins to Alabama as head coach. Yeah, but hey, Durkins would. The thing about him is that he would actually negotiate the contract to have like a certain amount of beer delivered to him every day. So it's I would love to see that contract. It would be fun while it lasted. That we just don't know how long that would be. Folks, thank you so much for joining me. I want to know, who do you think will legitimately be the next head coach for the Alabama Crimson Tide? Who is it? I want you to put it in the comments section. If you haven't subscribed, hey, I hope you do. If you like what I do, even if you don't like my team, even if you disagree with me at times, that's fine. We don't have to agree on everything. Why is it? We don't have to agree on everything. We can still be civil. But if you like what I do, I hope that you will subscribe. It's free and it's easy. If you want to support on a monthly basis, there's a join button below. Either way, I'm glad you're here. Let me know what you think. I will catch you later as always. Go Tigers.